So one of the biggest mistakes I think in design in the new Tundra was it not coming with a place right here in all trims to get on the bed. The 1794 and the Platinum can be situated with a power bed step that does come down when the tailgate opens, but none of the other trims have that available. There is a mechanical step, and if you price that out on the Toyota's website, it's $399. Now, I'm not interested in that new Tundra. I did look at a Nissan Titan recently. The Titan had the mechanical step that came down. Now, for me, it's not a big deal. I can still use this step and get up and get in. But when I was looking at that Titan, my wife said, hey, I really like that step. It would help me out when I need to get into the bed to get something. And so what we're gonna do is show you how that would install. Now that's a $399 option on the Toyota website. As you can see here, I'll show you. This one was $216 plus tax in my home state of Georgia. It's $233.77 versus $399. List price on this is $275. Now, whether or not this step that we're going to be putting on my second gen today matches up exactly with the 2022, I don't not changing out my front bumper to figure out how to put tow hooks on that new truck for you. So I started to open this. As you see, it's this piece packed in paper here. This bracket. You can see there's a bracket right there that's going to go on. Feels like maybe some hardware in here. More hardware there. Here's a step. Doesn't feel, the step itself does not feel like metal, feels like a rubber piece, which is fine. You can see there it says push with the yellow. So that must go that position right here on this corner of the truck. There's definitively some hardware in a bracket. And there's the mechanical arm. Okay. Don't see any instruction sheet. I'm going to open these other bags and see if we can find some. These are the instructions from Toyota. There's the part number up there, P239234140. I printed these from Sparks Parts website. Just did a simple web search on it and got that. And then this is from AMP bed step. So I believe this is just the AMP research bed step. The instructions look like it is the exact same thing. The AMP research one is a little bit more expensive online currently than it is to get it from Toyota. I imagine for the 2022, it's probably the same step, and it's a $399 part, or as I like to say, that's 4 years of subscription service. And first thing it looks like we need to do is free up the
so as we look at this here, this is the piece we're going to be, this is the bracket for holding up the bumper that we're going to be replacing. There are some bolts here, here, and here to get that off. There's one up here, one there, and then here are two of the tabs we're going to need to squeeze and pry at the same time.
So the first part of this, let me get on my light here. First part of this was removing this cover right here. Now, to remove that bumper cover, there are attachments, and as you can see, there's a clip, two of them right there, one right there, get it white, and a white one right here. Wasn't so worried about this one, it's hard to get to. These were the two that I focused on. It said to use a long-handled screwdriver, which we did, but what I did with the long-handled screwdriver is I used it from underneath, and then what I used, you can see I've added some duct tape here. This is an Arrow staple remover. Here is what it looks like without the duct tape on it. And so what I did was I got that pried in right here first with this one, went underneath, pressed that tab with the screwdriver, and got this side up, moved it down here, got it wedged in right there, went back underneath with the screwdriver, pushed that tab in, popped this side up. Once I did that, I came up here and popped it, and it all just came right out nice and easy.
Okay, the next step was to take this light from right out of there. That's the license plate illumination. And then up here, we need to disconnect the harness from the trailer socket. We do not need to take the socket itself out, just the harness.
Now, this is the part that's interesting right here. The next step in the AMP research directions tell you need to remove this top bolt here, and then there's a bolt underneath this bumper here that we still have to finish taking off. We've taken 2/3 of it off. We have to do the other third, but there's a bolt under here as well that needs to come out. The Toyota instructions skip that step for some reason. I don't know why, but it's definitely missing from the Toyota instructions. It's definitely in the AMP research. And one other thing I didn't see in either of the instructions was regarding this little plastic clip right here, which also needs to come free if you're going to be able to lift that plastic bumper cap out of the way. When you lift this bumper cap up, what you're going to see is there are 1, 2, 3 bolts. It's the furthest one away from you, so it's the closest to the tailgate, and then it's the one furthest toward the driver's side. So it actually sits a little bit forward. It's this one right here, closest to this little opening for the clip. That's the one you need to remove right there. Now, before I continue with the rest of it, you'll see I also added some blue painter's tape here along the edge of that bumper as well, because as I'm leveraging this up to get, it is scraping across my paint there. Now, the thing that both instructions seem to have skipped for some reason is that this bracket, there's no way to get this out without removing this bracket, which is a 10 millimeter bolt right here, and a 10 millimeter bolt. So it takes a bit of wrestling and finagling to get this one out. You want to be gentle with that to not bang up your bumper or your paint at all. Did that as best I could. I don't think we created any damage with it. Then this is the one that goes back in. Same bolts are reused and go ahead and goes back in the same place to replace the nuts that are right here. 1, 2, 3. These have a new set of nuts that come with them. Things to help get this new bracket up into place is over here. Since the bumper's loose, if you kind of pull and leverage it down a little bit as you're wiggling and finagling, it just takes a little bit of wrestling to try to do that. As you can see on the inside here, I got a scuff, but that's, hey, it's not really deep or anything, and it's much better than getting a scuff on the outside here. So it's time to replace the bolts. It says to leave this one out until a later step. So we're going to go ahead and put these. Now when it comes time to retighten these nuts, they're going to go to 20 foot-pounds each. Now this is the spot right here. These are 2 19 millimeter bolts that we'll have to undo. And that's where the bracket for the step is going to mount to. Okay, so this is the step assembly. You have mounting bolts here. This assistant bracket goes here, and then in between, I don't have this tightened down yet, there's a spacer right there. It suggests doing this in a vise. I don't think you need to. I'm just going to do it in the box here. I have everything. You just don't want to over tighten it because you want to have a little bit of motion available in this before you tighten everything down. These bolts that you see on top here, those are 15 millimeter. The reasons you don't want to tighten it all the way down is you still want this bracket to be free to move so that when you go to mount it, it mounts in the right place for you. I just tightened to these nuts right here, and these of course are welded nuts. The bolts you can't see anymore because they're behind the bracket. They go to 90 foot-pounds. In order to get to where you can turn, it's almost like a bench press. I had to use this extension on my torque wrench, and that allowed me to kind of reach up here blindly and then go back and forth, up and down, leveraging them and getting those both to 90 foot-pounds there. Now you can't really see the bolts up here anymore either. These were the 2 that we put together with the leg. These both are going to go to 33 foot-pounds. I should have room in here to turn that. Before I do that, I'm going to get this arm lined up where I want it so that it links correctly with everything, which will probably be right in there. And then we'll see if we can fit that other bracket back that goes up to there as well. It should be nice to have all those back into place. When you're putting that bracket back in, you can see the notch up there at the top. That notch tells you which way it goes. That notch has a little lip that it goes into, so it goes this direction right here. Bracket that they didn't tell you needed to come out. I went ahead and took it out and putting it back in. It's got the threads to screw in. The other bracket that comes with it, the stabilizing bracket, doesn't quite reach, so I took my tin snips and notched out. You see it matched the other side. I notched that out so it would fit. So that's something you may have to do with this as well. See those bolts that are welded, or I'm sorry, the nuts that are welded on the other side for the bolts are right there. As you can see here, I actually ended up cutting out a little more of that bracket. I needed to get it by the other arm so that they would work together. Otherwise, this one kept pushing the other one away and you couldn't get the bolt into the nut. So here's what I want to show you. There's the bolt up there where my finger's pointing, the 10 millimeter that attached this bracket. Down here is the other one. It also has a support bracket coming from the new step.
But right here is where I had to cut it because this lip kept running into the new bracket and I couldn't get the bolt on. They're both on there securely now. So yeah, just may take a little. Now it's time to assemble the links in the step here. And they go 1, 2, closer to this narrow one. We're gonna skip this space and then number 3 is gonna go right there. Now to put these 3 nuts into that plate, it's gonna be a 3/16 Allen drive to get these 3 nuts into their position to hook that plate into the mechanical arm of the step. So I'm done. Let's take a look at this. So you just go up here, you step, slides down like that. It's 1 step up, and we're into the back of the bed. Let's take a look at it. There's what it looks like when you're done using it. Kicks up. Now, there's nothing wrong with a mechanical step. I actually probably would prefer it to a power step myself. Just the power step, I would be worried about it breaking that. I'm never worried about it breaking. And if it gets stuck or gets dirty or whatever might happen to it, I can clean it off and it'll work again. Now, I'm a fairly handy guy. I'm not the most handy, but I'm fairly handy and I can do this job in, about 2 hours it took me without doing it before. If I was to do it again, I probably could take 30 or 40% off that time, knowing the steps and knowing what needs to be done. But it begs the question, why should you have to do that? Toyota's making a new vehicle, brand new vehicle. There are all sorts of innovative tailgate options now from the manufacturers. Why is Toyota not only offering a secondary step like this from the factory, they didn't offer a place to step right here, which is just crazy to me. I guess maybe Toyota knows this truck, this new one, is primarily for posers, and those of you that take that personally, so what? The truth of the matter is, if that truck suits your needs, that's just fine. But the instant you go to use the bed the first time, you have to crawl up and sit up on the tailgate, as opposed to getting in it with a nice convenient step, you're going to wonder, why in the world did they do that?